Midnight is not just another hour. It's when spirits prowl, when shadows whisper, when demons seek a dwelling. But what if I told you there is a simple act older than memory, stronger than fear, burning one sacred herb that will turn your house into holy ground where darkness cannot stay? This is not superstition, beloved. This is warfare. For midnight is the enemy's playground, yet it can become the believer's altar. When prayer, fire, and faith rise together, no curse can remain, no demon. Midnight has always carried with it a peculiar weight, a silence that does not feel like peace, but instead feels like the world holding its breath. At that hour, streets empty, windows shut tight, and the sound of footsteps echoes louder than it should. It is in this hour that many feel the chill of unseen eyes, the press of an atmosphere that thickens with shadows. Midnight is when thoughts grow heavier, when nightmares rise from hidden corners of the mind, and when the fragile spirit feels most exposed. It is the moment when the day's distractions have fallen away, and all that is left is the battle between what is within you and what lurks beyond you. This is not an hour of comfort. It is the threshold where darkness seeks entry. For those who have ever lain awake in the black stillness, listening to creaks and whispers, feeling a presence you could not name but could not deny, you know that midnight is not an ordinary hour. It is a gate, and gates are always contested. Across generations, midnight has been understood as a time when spirits wander, when the veil between the seen and unseen seems thinner. The old women used to say that while children slept, the air at midnight grew restless with things not meant to be welcomed. Men of wisdom would speak of the hour as one of testing, one of heightened vulnerability. It is no accident that fear clings to the dark, and the deepest dark arrives in the very middle of the night. People try to dismiss this by saying it is only the mind, only imagination, but tell that to the one who wakes at midnight with the weight of dread pressing on their chest. Tell that to the one who has felt their room grow colder without reason. Tell that to the one who has heard whispers in an empty house. There is a reason the heart races more quickly at midnight when the silence grows too deep. The enemy delights in shadows because shadows hide. Midnight is not simply a number on the clock. It is the hour when the body is weary, when the spirit relaxes, when guardrails weaken. Darkness prowls where the soul is most unguarded, and at midnight the soul is often unguarded. This is why battles of the unseen so often rage at that hour. That is why restless sleep torments, why fear feels sharper, why loneliness howls louder, why grief weighs heavier, and why the whisper of something unwelcome finds courage to come closer. Midnight is the testing ground where demons seek to slip in unnoticed, to steal a place at your table, to anchor themselves within your home. And yet, the very awareness of this truth awakens power. To know that midnight is the enemy's chosen hour is to know the moment of your greatest opportunity. If darkness creeps at midnight, then light must rise at midnight. If the shadows whisper at midnight, then prayers must thunder at midnight. There is no fear in knowing the schemes of the enemy, because knowledge uncovers the strategy of protection. Midnight, then, is not merely a moment to endure, but a moment to claim. It is the time to decide that the shadows cannot dictate the atmosphere of your home. It is the time to remember that though midnight brings silence, silence can be broken. What once felt like oppression can become the hour of deliverance. What once felt like an invasion can be met with defiance. Midnight is the battlefield where faith declares, "You cannot stay here." What if I told you that there is a secret older than the wrinkles of time, a weapon so simple that many have overlooked it, a remedy resting in the palm of the earth itself? What if I told you that this one small act, performed at the very hour when darkness prowls most fiercely, could shift the atmosphere of your home, could silence the whispers that stir in the shadows, could send demons fleeing like dry leaves scattered by a storm? This is no superstition, no hollow tale whispered by frightened hearts. This is power clothed in simplicity, strength disguised in the ordinary, a holy mystery wrapped in something so small you might have stepped over it without thought. Burn this herb at midnight and watch what happens. The air will change, the stillness will tremble, the unseen will take notice, and that which has been lurking will find no corner left to cling to. Too long have people lived believing they must simply endure the heaviness that presses on them at night, as though their homes were not meant to be sanctuaries, as though the restless stirring in the air were something to ignore. Too long have mothers watched their children toss and cry in their sleep, not knowing the reason. Too long have fathers walked the floors at night, uneasy and restless, unable to name what they felt. Too long have believers underestimated the sacredness of space, forgetting that their very walls can hold either peace or torment, depending on what is allowed to dwell there. And too long have people missed that God has always used the simplest of things, oil, salt, water, a stone, a rod, a song, to shame the forces of darkness and declare his dominion. This herb, when set to flame at the midnight hour, is not about smoke and scent alone. No, it is about declaration. It is about saying, this house belongs to light, this family belongs to hope, this atmosphere will not be shared with torment. The fire rises, the fragrance lifts, and with it the faith of the one who kindles it. There is a strength in ritual when the ritual is filled with meaning. There is power in action when the action is soaked with faith. The herb is not the savior, the herb is not the source. The herb is the sign, the symbol, the earthly vessel that carries a heavenly message into the very fabric of your home. When burned in faith, it says to the spirits that wander, you have no invitation here, you have no rest here, you have no authority here. And the beauty of it is this: the act itself is not complex, not out of reach, not locked behind secret doors. It is as ordinary as fire and leaf, yet extraordinary in what it represents. That is the way of divine wisdom, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be taken up by the one who believes. Where others see smoke, the believer sees a shield. Where others see fragrance, the believer feels a fortress. Where others see superstition, the believer knows it is an act of alignment, an act of faith, a testimony that midnight is not surrendered but reclaimed. It is not the size of the flame that sends demons running, it is the authority of the one who lights it. It is not the herb alone that shifts the atmosphere, it is the faith that burns with it. At midnight, when the herb is set to fire, the unseen is made visible, the weak become bold, and the fearful find courage rising in their bones. Demons cannot stay in a place where faith has marked the doorway. They cannot linger in a house where the midnight hour is turned into a holy watchtower. The herb may be common, but when lifted by faith it becomes a banner, a declaration, a line drawn in fire saying, "Darkness, you must go." This is not superstition, beloved. This is warfare, the kind of warfare that does not clang with swords or thunder with guns, but a warfare that trembles through the unseen places where spirits dwell and whispers linger. Midnight, that silent hour, is not a quiet hour at all. It is the playground of the enemy, the moment when shadows dare to swell, when torment prowls around the corners of the weary. Yet what many forget is that midnight can also become the altar, the place where the weary rise and say, "Not in my house, not in my spirit, not in my family." For the one who knows the secret of prayer, the one who understands the weight of fire and faith, midnight becomes a sacred battlefield where victory is not only possible but inevitable. Think of the silence of that hour. The world hushed, the streets still, the laughter of day dissolved into memory. In that silence you are not defenseless, you are not abandoned, you are not left to the mercy of unseen tormentors. In that silence you are armed. Every prayer whispered at midnight thunders louder than the footsteps of the enemy. Every flame kindled at that hour burns brighter than the gloom pressing at your door. Midnight is the hour when faith is tested, and faith, when tested, proves itself like iron pulled from the fire. Do not believe the lie that shadows are stronger than light. Light has never bowed to darkness. Darkness has always fled from light. It is the nature of light to break apart shadows, and it is the nature of shadows to scatter when the smallest flame appears. The enemy counts on your silence, counts on your fear, counts on your willingness to close your eyes and pretend nothing moves in the unseen. But the moment you rise, the moment you stand, the moment you speak, the air itself shifts. Fear loses its grip, torment loses its ground, and your home becomes more than walls and roof. It becomes sanctuary, it becomes fortress, it becomes altar. The burning of the herb at midnight is not about smoke, not about fragrance, not about ritual. It is about defiance. It is about lifting your hand in faith and saying, "If you dare to creep into my midnight, then I dare to meet you here with fire and with prayer." It is about reclaiming what was always yours, about refusing to surrender your rest, your peace, your family, your home. Demons seek the unguarded, they seek the silent, they seek the one who will not rise. But when they find a believer standing awake at midnight, flame in hand, prayer on lips, faith unshaken, they cannot stay. Understand this truth. Midnight magnifies whatever you bring into it. Bring fear into midnight, and fear will grow. Bring despair into midnight, and despair will root itself deeper. But bring faith into midnight, and faith will roar. Bring prayer into midnight, and prayer will shift the atmosphere. Bring fire into midnight, and fire will proclaim that this house is untouchable, this family is unbreakable, this soul is unshakable. And so, beloved, do not run from the midnight hour. Claim it. Do not tremble at the silence. Fill it. Do not cower when shadows rise. Answer them, for the herb, the flame, the prayer, they are not superstition, they are strategy. They are not weakness, they are weapon. And when lifted together at the very hour the enemy thought belonged to him, they declare with authority, "This midnight belongs to the Lord, and no demon can dwell here." The herb itself is not magic. It is not a charm to be clutched or a spell to be cast. It is rather a sign, a symbol wrapped in leaf and stem, carrying with it the whisper of creation's breath. When fire touches it, its fragrance rises and fills the room, and in that rising fragrance there is meaning far deeper than smoke. It becomes an offering, an act of faith, clothed in the ordinary, a declaration that this home, these walls, this ground, this family is marked by light. When you burn the herb, you are not bowing to the leaf. You are bowing to the one who made it, using what is simple and natural to proclaim a spiritual reality, that no curse can remain where prayer has taken root. No demon can linger where faith has set its seal. Symbols matter, they always have. A rod lifted by a trembling man parted seas. A drop of oil poured on a forehead broke chains of sickness. A handful of dust mixed with spit gave sight to blind eyes. Bread and wine, ordinary as any meal, became eternal reminders of covenant and covering. A stone rolled away announced victory over death itself. And so it is with the herb, not magic but message, not superstition but substance. It is a signal sent into the unseen, saying this space has been claimed, this house is covered, this family is not for sale to the forces of darkness. The substance of the herb carries the strength of creation. It was made with purpose. Its scent was not crafted by human hands, but by the one who set stars in the sky and rivers in their courses. When its fragrance rises, it does not just fill the nostrils, it fills the atmosphere. It pushes into corners where shadows gather. It presses into spaces where unease has dwelt, and it reminds both the soul and the unseen that God has woven protection even into the earth beneath our feet. Smoke curls upward like prayer ascending, like faith made visible, like hope refusing to be smothered. It fills the air the way truth fills a lie, leaving no room for deception, leaving no space for torment to hide. Understand, beloved, that the power is never in the herb itself. Left alone, it is only a leaf, only a plant, only a handful of matter destined to wither and fade. But touched by flame and lifted by faith, it becomes a banner, a proclamation, a line drawn in the unseen. That is what makes it substance, not superstition. For without faith, smoke is smoke. With faith, smoke is shield. Without prayer, scent is scent. With prayer, scent becomes sanctuary. The herb is the canvas, but faith is the paint. The herb is the vessel, but prayer is the water that fills it. Together they speak louder than silence, stronger than shadows. Your home is more than a dwelling. It is a spiritual place. It remembers your laughter. It holds your tears. It absorbs your prayers. It shelters your children. It should not be left open to invasion. When the herb burns and the fragrance lifts, it declares to every corner, every doorway, every window, this place is set apart. It is as though the walls themselves inhale the fragrance and exhale protection. It is as though the air itself becomes a garment of peace, wrapping your family as they sleep, covering your mind as you rest, standing guard over your very breath. So do not despise the symbol. Do not overlook the simple, for God has always taken the common and made it holy. And when the herb is burned at midnight, it is more than fragrance. It is faith ascending, substance made visible, a cry in the night that says to the unseen, this house is not yours to haunt, this family is not yours to trouble, this ground is not yours to claim. At midnight, chains have always been broken. At midnight, voices have always risen. At midnight, the unseen has always shifted. The scriptures themselves tell us that in the depths of night, while others slept, deliverance came. Paul and Silas, shackled and bruised, did not wait for dawn to cry out. They lifted their songs in the darkness, and their voices tore through the silence until the very earth shook and prison doors flew open. Midnight was the setting for their miracle, because midnight is not only an hour of fear, it is an hour of decision. It is the moment where you either surrender to the weight of shadows or rise up to remind those shadows that they are temporary, that light is coming, that freedom is already written. When you burn the herb at midnight, you are not performing a ritual of superstition. You are aligning yourself with a divine pattern. Midnight is not simply late, it is prophetic. It is the hinge between what was and what is about to be. It is the moment where yesterday finally lets go and tomorrow stretches out its hand. And it is in that very moment, when time itself seems to pause, that you declare, my home belongs to light. My family belongs to peace. My body belongs to freedom. My soul belongs to joy. Do you not see? Midnight is the perfect stage for deliverance. When the body is weary, the spirit is laid bare. When the city is quiet, the voice of the believer rises without competition. When the enemy prowls, faith roars louder. Midnight is where battles are fought in whispers and in cries, where strongholds either gain a foothold or are shattered by the sound of prayer and flame. To stand at midnight is to stand in the place of transformation, where torment is silenced and peace is born. Burning the herb at that hour is more than the act of fire. It is the act of agreement. You are stepping into the same rhythm that has echoed through ages, the rhythm of chains snapping, of prisoners freed, of songs lifted in the night. You are choosing the battleground, saying, "If the enemy seeks me here, then I will meet him here, and I will not meet him alone. I will meet him with prayer. I will meet him with faith. I will meet him with the fire that does not sleep." Beloved, midnight is not an accident. It is not random. It has always been the hour where heaven and earth seem to draw close, where angels move, where the unseen stirs with intensity. To burn the herb at midnight is to mark the very hour the enemy thought belonged to him and turn it into a sanctuary. It is to say, your season of haunting ends here. Your reign of fear ends tonight. Your grip on this home is broken now. Imagine the fragrance rising in the stillness, wrapping itself around every door frame, curling into every shadowed corner. Imagine it pushing against whatever tried to creep in while you slept, pressing back the heaviness that threatened your peace. Imagine it carrying your prayers upward like incense before the throne, testifying that at midnight you did not bow, you stood. At midnight you did not tremble, you claimed. At midnight you did not hide, you declared. This is the midnight watch, a holy watch, a watch where the faithful refuse to sleep through the struggle, where they rise to guard what is theirs. It is not about fear. It is about vigilance. It is about knowing the hour of battle and being ready. When others close their eyes and surrender, you open your spirit and fight. And when you fight, beloved, you are not fighting alone, for the same God who shook the prisons of Paul and Silas shakes the foundations of your fear. The same God who loosed their chains will loose your home from torment. Midnight is not the enemy's hour, it is the believer's altar. And when you light the flame, when you lift your prayer, when you stand watch, you claim the victory that was already written in your favor. The fire itself is not what drives demons out. A flame without faith is just a flicker, a wisp of light swallowed by the dark. Smoke without belief is nothing but air, rising and fading with no weight, no authority. But when faith fuels that fire, when belief breathes into that flame, it becomes more than heat, more than scent. It becomes a declaration. Demons are not frightened of smoke, but they tremble at faith. They are not disturbed by the crackle of a flame, but they flee from the heart that dares to say, "I believe this house is covered. I believe my family is protected. I believe the blood speaks louder than the curse." Faith is the fire. It is what changes the act from ritual to weapon, from routine to resistance, from tradition to triumph. Without faith, the herb is only leaf and ash. With faith, the herb becomes testimony. Without faith, the night remains dark. With faith, the night bends toward dawn. That is the difference. That is why one house can smell the smoke and find no relief, while another house breathes the same fragrance and feels chains breaking, shadows lifting, and peace descending like a mantle over every room. Faith has always been the unseen power that makes the seen tremble. Faith built an ark before a single drop of rain fell. Faith marched around walls until stones that seemed immovable crumbled into dust. Faith stood in the fire until flames turned into testimony. Faith looked into the den of lions and rested as though surrounded by lambs. Faith is what turns the common into the sacred, what takes the ordinary act and clothes it with eternal consequence. And so when you burn that herb at midnight, remember, it is not the flame in your hand that drives darkness away. It is the flame in your heart. You can light 1,000 fires, but if fear still reigns inside you, shadows will find a way to creep back in. Yet light a single flame with faith burning behind it, and the whole house shifts. Demons do not run from smoke. They run from the authority of a believer who knows who they are and whose they are. When you light the fire with trembling but declare with courage, this is holy ground, this is a house of prayer, this is a dwelling of light, then even the air begins to change. The atmosphere thickens not with fear but with glory, not with torment but with peace. Faith is not loud, though it can roar. Faith is not always visible, though its fruits shine clear. Faith is a fire hidden in the chest, refusing to be snuffed out. When it rises, even the smallest act carries power. A whispered prayer can split the heavens. A tear rolling down a cheek can be the beginning of deliverance. A single flame, fed by faith, can push back armies of darkness. That is why faith is the fire. The herb is the vessel, the flame is the tool, but faith is the essence. So as you stand at midnight with fire in hand, do not focus on the leaf, do not focus on the smoke, focus on the faith that rises with it. Let every spark be fueled by belief. Let every breath of fragrance remind you that heaven responds not to ritual, but to trust. Let your faith clothe the act, turning smoke into shield, scent into sanctuary, flame into fortress. For it is not the fire that frightens demons, it is the faith behind the fire. Every home is more than brick and wood, more than plaster and paint. A home breathes, a home remembers. Its walls echo with laughter, its corners hold the traces of tears, its floors carry the weight of footsteps that march through joy and sorrow alike. A home is a vessel for the lives lived within it, and because of that, it can also become a battleground. Some houses feel heavy, not because of the furniture that fills them, but because of the unseen burdens allowed to linger in the air. You walk through the doorway and feel a chill that is not from weather, a silence that is not restful, a restlessness that does not belong. That is no accident. Darkness seeks dwelling just as much as light does. Demons long for a place to rest, and too often they seek to nest in the very spaces meant for your peace. When you burn the herb at midnight, you are not simply lighting a fire, you are cleansing the atmosphere. The fragrance rises, curling into every room, every hallway, every hidden corner. It presses into the places where heaviness once sat. It seeps into the air that carried whispers of despair, and it says with authority, "This home is not abandoned, this home is not unguarded, this home is not available for torment." Just as a mother covers her child with a blanket, the smoke covers the home with peace. Just as a watchman stands guard at the city gates, the fragrance stands guard at your door. A home without protection becomes vulnerable. Night after night, things slip in unnoticed. Fear through the television screen, despair through unspoken words, anger through arguments left unresolved, temptation through quiet corners of secrecy. But a protected home is different. A protected home is marked. It has been spoken over, prayed over, claimed as sacred ground. Burning the herb at midnight is not about filling the air with scent. It is about sealing the space with intention. It is about declaring to every spirit that thought it could linger, your stay is over. Think of the family, sleeping as the smoke curls through the rooms. A child tossing in nightmares suddenly breathes deep and rests. A husband burdened with silent worry exhales and finds his heart lighter. A mother whose spirit has carried too much finally feels the room itself embrace her with calm. The atmosphere changes because you chose to claim it, because you refused to leave your home uncovered, because you knew that protection is not passive, it must be declared. Protecting your home is not only about driving out what should not be there, it is also about inviting what should remain. Peace does not come by accident. Joy does not settle without welcome. Rest does not stay where it is not nurtured. When the herb burns, it is both eviction and invitation. It sends darkness packing while swinging wide the door for light to settle. It is a cleansing and a consecration, a dismissal and a dedication. Beloved, your home is more than a place to sleep. It is your sanctuary. It should be the place where your soul breathes, where your children grow in safety, where your table carries not just food, but fellowship. Do not let it become a playground for torment. Do not let it stand unguarded in the night. Protect it, cover it, claim it. The act of burning the herb at midnight is a way of saying to both seen and unseen, this house belongs to peace. This family belongs to light. This ground is holy. And once that declaration is made, no demon has the right to linger. No curse has the authority to remain. No shadow has the power to rule. Your home becomes what it was always meant to be, a refuge, a sanctuary, a dwelling wrapped in the presence of the one who guards it. If you are weary of nights that do not give rest, if you are exhausted from lying in bed with your eyes open while the darkness presses against your spirit, then hear me now. You are not created to live with torment creeping through your hallways. You are not meant to surrender your sleep to shadows. Rest is holy, peace is sacred, and your home is not the enemy's dwelling place, it is your sanctuary. If you are tired of feeling something unseen watching, tired of the hair on your arms rising in your own living room, tired of whispers you cannot explain and heaviness you cannot shake, then you are standing on the edge of freedom. Stay with me. Do not turn away, because what I am speaking is not folklore, not imagination. It is truth for the believer who dares to act. You do not need a priest in a robe or a prophet with a microphone to reclaim your house. You do not need incense from a temple or relics from a shrine. What you need is faith in your chest, prayer on your tongue, and the courage to stand at midnight when the enemy thought you would stay silent. This herb is not superstition, it is strategy. It is the tool in your hand for the victory that has already been promised. I want you to understand, midnight is not your enemy. Midnight is your opportunity. The enemy prowls in that hour only because he hopes you will not rise, hopes you will not resist, hopes you will surrender your home to silence. But when you rise at midnight, when you lift the flame, when the smoke fills the air, you are telling the unseen, this family will rest, this house will not be haunted, this ground belongs to peace, and no demon can argue with a declaration made in faith. So, beloved, do not give up. Do not walk away, shaking your head and saying, maybe one day. The time is now. The moment is tonight. Your home does not need another restless night. Your children do not need another nightmare. Your body does not need another hour of turning and tossing. They need you to stand. They need you to say no more. They need you to strike the match, light the flame, and claim back what belongs to you. Stay with me because I am about to show you the how. I will guide you through the steps. I will tell you the moment. I will reveal how to make your midnight a holy altar and not a haunted hour. This is not theory. it is testimony. For many have done it, and peace has entered their homes. Many have risen, and torment has fled their families. You can be one of them. You can shift the atmosphere of your entire house tonight. If you feel a stirring as these words reach your ears, do not ignore it. That stirring is your spirit saying, "This is the truth I have been waiting for." That stirring is your heart saying, "Tonight is the night my peace returns." Stay with me, because in just a moment I will place in your hands the steps that turn fear into faith, silence into song, torment into testimony. Midnight is coming, but this time you will not fear it. This time you will own it. This time demons will see the flame, smell the fragrance, hear your prayer, and they will flee. Beloved, what began as whispers in the dark has now been unmasked as nothing more than shadows trembling before the light. We have walked through the mystery of midnight together, not as those who fear it, but as those who understand its weight, its danger, and its holy opportunity. We have seen how the herb is not magic, but message, a simple gift of creation made into a banner when lifted by faith. We have remembered how midnight has always been the hour of deliverance, the stage where chains fall and prayers thunder. We have learned that it is not the smoke that shifts the unseen, but the faith that fuels it, not the fragrance that drives torment away, but the declaration it carries. This house is covered, this family is guarded, this ground belongs to light. Your home is not just a shelter for your body, it is a sanctuary for your spirit. It deserves protection, it deserves peace, it deserves the covering of prayer. When you rise at midnight and strike the match, you are not playing with ritual. You are standing as a watchman on the wall, refusing to let your household become the enemy's playground. You are drawing a line of fire through your hallways, declaring to every shadow, your time here has ended. And as the smoke rises, so too does your authority, so too does your testimony, so too does your peace. Remember, darkness has never ruled the light. It only waits for silence. It only thrives in surrender. But when a believer speaks, when a believer rises, when a believer acts in faith, even the midnight hour bends its knee. Demons cannot stay where the flame of faith is burning. Curses cannot cling to a house sealed in prayer. Fear cannot settle in an atmosphere filled with light. So go, beloved. Do not fear the midnight. Claim it. Do not hide from the hour. Watch it. Do not surrender your home. Guard it. Strike the match, lift your prayer, burn the herb, and let your faith rise like incense. And when you do, you will find that what once felt like torment has turned into testimony, that what once felt like fear has become fortress, that what once was the hour of the enemy has become the altar of your victory. The night may come, but it will not conquer. Midnight may fall, but it will not reign. For your home is not a dwelling for demons. It is a sanctuary of peace, and peace, once claimed, will not let you go.